What is that?
That's her typing. Hello, everyone. Welcome. That or it's her drum roll.
Yeah. Well, hello,
Welcome.
everyone. We have had some technical difficulties. We are running about 18 minutes late. So everything was great until all of a sudden my camera and my microphone literally lost connection. And Coach Sly, we were like, let's go live. We lost her for a moment. So it was just really funny for a few minutes there. But we're here and we want to welcome everyone to all of our streaming platforms. Welcome, everyone. Welcome to our first Monday night of December.
Where has the year gone? My goodness. It doesn't seem like it should be the end of the year already.
It's here. Surprise.
Well,
did everybody wake up and look at all the elf on the shelves this morning?
Oh, that's right. So welcome, Coach Sly. This is the Coaches Roundtable, which we do every month, the first Monday of every month. So it's just fun to gain another perspective with Coach Sly. And because we all come from different walks of life. So it's just kind of fun. So we're glad you're here.
Yay. My cat's deciding it wants to play right now too, so he keeps coming up and smacking and grabbing me.
Hey, that's all right. What did I just get through saying? We're real people. We don't strive for perfection.
Yeah,
we do. Well, so funny. I'm going to bring you up to speed, Coach Sly. So last Monday when we were doing our podcast and we were talking, and the topic of seasonal depression came up. Mm-hmm. And literally in the middle of the podcast, I'm like, hey, let's use that topic for next week, tonight, with Coach Sly. And we thought that would be a great just to, talk about the seasonal depression and going even beyond that, because it's a very real depression. It's actually sad, right? Seasonal affective disorder.
So here's another thing too, is like depression's been a learning curve for me for mental health stuff. And before I educated myself and was around more people, I was like, how does it work? How can you just get sad right now? And it's taken a lot of looking at an education to come around and see it is real. It is so real. And the amount of people that it can affect.
Yeah, it definitely ends up and affects them, and I'm sure we're going to end up and have 3 different opinions on what is the root cause of it, right? Seasonal depression is fundamentally, from my perspective, a light information problem. But we'll end up and we'll get into all of the background side of things, because we lose certain light, we overuse other light, we stimulate cortisol. There's a lot of factors from that standpoint. So we'll bring it all into the talk tonight.
Well, it's definitely psychological too. And I agree with you with the biological factors, right? The reduced sunlight. And because of that reduced sunlight, it lowers the serotonin and the melatonin balance. I walked out this morning. It was cold, not as cold as what you ladies are experiencing, but it was cold for Texas. And I walked out. I had to get something, and I went outside. It was cold. I went out without a jacket. Um, but it wasn't even like the sunrise hadn't even started. And I was looking at the time going, okay, come on. Like, chop chop, son, like let's get raising. It stayed overcast all day anyway, which I know affects people as well, but I think that's a huge factor. I also think that it's psychological as well, right? Holiday stress and loneliness and financial strain. I think that plays into it. And I also think that it even goes even broader than that, that depression isn't just seasonal. And how do you recognize when it goes even deeper, right? So I personally think it's seasonal depression. For me, it's kind of the tip of an iceberg, and it sometimes reveals the like underlying uh, I don't know, burnout, stress, even grief. There's just a lot of underlying factors. Think of it as an iceberg, right? So you see the top, but underneath it's really huge. So I don't know. What do you think, Sly?
I think that there's all those layers of depression. They don't categorize them like it's a multi-layered thing sometimes. But even if you go into like something that I recently read of, it could almost even be a survival mode, of like you said, when somebody's overwhelmed, overstressed, and your body's shutting down as a survival mode, or, every year you've trained your body, you know, that this is what's going to happen, along with the environmental things. I think it's so hard today to pinpoint the exact thing that's causing this person's mental health issues. Like you could dig deep, like you could dig deep with the addiction, the mental health. Like, do they have trauma? Well, this person has trauma, that person doesn't have trauma, but they both have the same issue. Or even for suicide ideation, right? They're like, well, this person community, well, this person has community, this person doesn't, so like really define the root cause. I think we go back to Becky. And some of the things of the circadian rhythm, the lighting, and I think that has a lot to do with it too. They tell people that have mental health issues or addiction issues should never move to like Alaska, where they have so many hours of dark, or even the light can bring somebody into manic. So I mean, we could sit here till the end of the year and really try to discuss what the root cause of it is, and nobody would be wrong about any of what we know is. Yeah. And that's a bigger thing. I don't think anybody would be wrong in some of the reasons they think it comes to be. So what I have looked at a lot is like, yeah, we want to find the root cause, but do we really need to, or do we just need to start at the root of what we need to be doing for recovery from it? And I think that's the answer. Because like I said, I was even talking to, we have clinicians that come into our classes at the treatment center to get their clinical hours in. And we were talking about their mental health clinicians. And we were talking about it and different mental health stuff. I was like, if you think about it, one person is like, when it comes to depression, bipolar disorder, even anxiety, OCD, any of these things are the same. Like, not one person has all the same symptoms. They have mood variations, they have this, they have that, they have different backgrounds, and nobody's presents itself exactly the same, right? And the only one that you can pinpoint a little bit easier, and they have that, is schizophrenia, and most of their hallucination and delusions across the board have similarities to them, which is fascinating to me, but also scary.
Yeah.
Yeah. But
It's
the
very, go ahead.
okay. No, go ahead.
I was just going to say, it's very scary when you're dealing with some of these deeper mental health issues, right? Are you just at the surface level where maybe the seasonal depression, is just like surface, right? But then as you kind of dig into some of these other mental health side of things, it's all about the spiral, right? When the body receives the wrong information, whether it's mood, whether it's energy, metabolism, sleep. A lot of times when people have mental health issues, their sleep is, dysregulated, right? And
Mhm.
that can end up and cause them to go into a spiral. But, that's where everyone is individualized. So you have to end up and take it on a person to person. Like you said, no two symptoms are typically the same. Even with schizophrenia, none of the there's similarities, but they're not necessarily the same.
Right.
So, and it really does end up a matter, but that's also where having a rigid and set routine, schedule, if you will, can end up and backfire on you too, in my opinion, because to me it shouldn't, what you do in the summertime shouldn't be the same as what you do in the wintertime. You know, you need to end up and have that variance, because in the wintertime our days are shorter, our nights are longer, we need more of that rest, right? In the spring and summer, the UVA and the UVB and all the brain producing, like Sherri said, the serotonin, right? The mood, the motivation, a lot, people are a lot more active, right, in the summertime. But as that UV exposure ends up and drops, so do some of those neurotransmitters, and that can end up and shift. And if people are sensitive to that chemical shift, then they end up and they notice a greater impact, right? So it's a case of not, going to the gym at 8 o'clock at night. Okay, maybe you did during the summer because it was still light out, right? But you're blasting yourself with, these fluorescent lights typically in a gym, or you're up at, 5 a.m. Like Sherri said, I mean, I'm catching daybreak most days to end up and do my grounding. Yes, I'm still the crazy one that goes and puts my feet in the snow, in my tank top, but there's benefit of the cold exposure when you are exposed to that cold air, and just the way that it also ends up and helps the hormones on that side of things with cortisol and everything else. So there's ways to transition what you are doing day in, day out to help support you too.
What do you think, Sherri?
Well, I mean, I definitely agree. So one of the things that I do, because I work, and I don't, I work in an actual office. And one of the things I've been doing since I started this job is if I wasn't walking around outside, I was sitting in the car with the windows rolled down. No sunglasses, no blue blockers on, right? Becky can attest to that because I talk to her daily, and that's what I'm doing, right? I'm getting that natural light in my eye. I drive to work with the window, cracked. I don't know how loud it is because I'm talking to Becky on the phone. I don't know if she can hear the wind, but I'm not wearing sunglasses. I'm not wearing anything like that. So I'm getting that natural light. It's the little things that I'm stacking that definitely helps.
Well, and not only that, but as you're driving to work with the window cracked and, getting that natural light in the eyes, what many people also, as they transition into winter, don't put enough focus on that sunrise, because that sunrise is also building that pineal melatonin for nighttime, right? We need more of that melatonin. It's not just a sleep hormone, but it's also your antioxidant, right? It repairs the mitochondria. So as you end up and you have longer darkness, as you have these longer nights, you end up and need that healthy melatonin release. And what is required for that, right, is a strong morning signal. And then obviously darkness in the evening, right? So not blasting yourself with bright lights and all of that. But even on the mornings when it's overcast, that's why I always say there's still benefit. You still end up and get the benefit of that brightness of light to set your circadian rhythm. If you are in reduced sunlight, you're inside all the time, right?
Mhm.
There's a different lux of light that you are getting, and that's also where thyroid comes into play. That's where the leptin shift, right? The leptin shifts before the insulin ever shifts. So a lot of people are, seem like they have more cravings or they want the sugar foods, right? Which, yes, we do end up and have the holidays. I mean, my goodness, I think we have a holiday every month of the year nowadays. But we really end up and see it around this time of year. But it's not all to do with just the holiday parties and the willpower of not, being able to say no. There is actually a chemical side of things that is going on too. And when you're riding this roller coaster of mismatch, it is leading in because your body is the brain is sensing these shorter days, and often that ends up and it shifts to this conserving mode, right? Where your body wants to conserve, but you also end up and want the energy, right? You don't down regulate with the season. You're trying to push hard, right? Like it's still those summer days, those active days. And when we do that, then the body is wanting a quicker, rapid energy, right? It's trying to push that metabolism. And one, you're either dealing with stress hormones, right? Or your hand is in the candy dish, right? So
Well, I think too that seasonal depression is actually a teacher, right? It teaches us that environment matters. And I think that is the huge thing that people are very disconnected with. They scroll on their phone at night. That light from their phone or your device is just right. It's telling your brain that it's not nighttime and that you should be shutting down and going to bed, right? That is telling you it's probably, I don't know, noon in the middle of the day. And, oh my gosh, wake up. And one of the things that was cute, my daughter went to visit my parents. I'm going to throw my parents under the bus. So if they're watching, sorry, Mom. But she said that, and I understand. But at night, they turn on all the lights. They have these bright night lights that light up how, walking to, the bathroom or whatever it is. It lights up the house at night. And when I go visit, I'm like running around unplugging everything. And it's like, oh my gosh, I can't. But I'll be honest with you. My mom, but well, actually both of them, they do struggle with sleep and they don't even realize that that's contributing to it. Now I understand for a safety reason why they have it, but there could be Becky and we have actually, what do you call them? The plug-ins, the night lights.
the night lights, yeah.
The night lights. We both have that, that you can still use, and it's red.
I have the salt ones.
Ooh.
The salt lamp.
Yeah, not just a salt lamp, but there's like salt night lights. I have the salt lamp by my bed, but in my bathroom I had a red light for a long time, and then as you can see, it's dark. But like if you look, if we did a turn, if we did a 360, I have red lights everywhere. Good thing I don't live in Amsterdam. Anyways, they but I found these little, I found them. It has like the little salt lamp on top of them. And that one helps with my bathroom a lot more. I really appreciate it because it's just a tad bit brighter than what the red was. It's a little bit more clarity, but it still has the same effect, right? So it's not not that light. So that's what I changed my bathroom light to for it.
And that's the biggest thing with the indoor lighting, right? We just had this conversation in one of the BNC meetings earlier, the fact of, incandescent bulbs during the day, or because we're blasted with LEDs. And I get the fact of, the claims that, energy saving, et cetera, right? But it is honestly, the brightness is the wrong wavelength of light, and we don't get any infrared, we don't get any UVA, right? That's why it's important to end up and go outside. But also, if we are using incandescent bulbs, because I understand also in winter times, especially when it's overcast, that people can't always have, red light or amber colored bulbs, right? Even though I have an amber color bulb in my floor lamp downstairs, but incandescent are more of a balanced spectrum. So, using that during the day, and even my red light that I have on right now, it's set like literally 3 inches off of the floor over there. Or if someone has a red light panel, right, being able to use that for ambient light in the evening. All of those are beneficial ways. Salt lamps are great. Candles, that come up in the meeting earlier too. But if you're using these brighter bulbs, it's signaling that it's, noon or 2 o'clock in the afternoon, and your body is essentially 3 hours behind, right? It's still producing the cortisol like it's that time of day. And cortisol and melatonin are going to oppose each other. So when we're looking at things from, the seasonal depression side of things, right, you've got to be able to get these signals for daytime, but to raise the cortisol, right, to raise the rest of these hormones that our body needs, but also be able to shut that down and not confuse the clock, because we see more anxiety. We see the wired but tired, right? People wake up groggy in the morning, or they're waking up through the night even. So we do end up, when we see this, and that all ends up and contributes to the worsening of depression. So, it does truly end up and make a difference when we are replacing natural sunlight with, blue light. We wonder why we feel different in the winter, right?
Mm-hmm.
It's not us personally, right? It's what are you doing around you? And that's where so many clients and so many people end up and lose the focus, is they hyper focus on one area, right? Maybe that's nutrition, or maybe that's, well, I can't go outside and ground, right? A lot of people, I know you don't, Sherri, because Texas doesn't have them, but for people like myself, a lot of basements are grounding. They're conductive surfaces, so they don't necessarily, or natural stones, right? So they don't necessarily have to be out in the snow, right? I was talking to someone in Canada today, and you don't have to be out in the snow to do the grounding. There are ways to still ground indoors. And there's a difference in grounding and earthing. I understand that. But all of that is also helping reduce inflammation and build this metabolic, water side of things too, that blue light depletes. And that, again, it all contributes to the seasonal affect disorder.
Yeah, Becky said today, oh, eat cellar root. What did you say? Root?
Cellar stable.
So yeah, and I said, excuse me, we don't have cellars here. So if I set something out, it's gonna rot because we don't have cellars.
Why don't you have? There's no cellars there
Very
in
little.
Texas.
Maybe in hill country, but I don't think there's much here. The South just doesn't have basements and cellars and things like that.
Huh.
I know, isn't that wild?
That's so wild.
Yeah.
Technically, that's where I live, is in the basement.
Right.
Yeah, I live on the garden level.
Well, one of the things that I did, and I don't know why it didn't dawn on me sooner, is I have my grounding plugged in, right? And I always sat here when I worked from home and always was plugged in and had it around my arm or my ankle or something, and was always grounding. And I have an extra one, and I just last week, Becky, took that into work, and so when I'm sitting, I've got that on me, so at least I'm getting the grounding of it, because I'm even going back to basics on things to make sure that, what it was I missing, what's going on, and the non-negotiables honestly have slipped for me. The glasses, like these are the yellow lenses that I have on now. I wear these. I have a set of these at work, and they're always on me. And it was funny with the one gal I work with. She was kind of alluding to, like, what are these? And I took them off and I handed them to her, and I said, now look at your computer screen. And she was like, oh my gosh, the glare is gone. And I'm like, yep. But I kind of left it at that. I didn't go into the whole rabbit hole of why, right? This is so important, but this is a non-negotiable. As soon as I walk outside where I work, they come off, but they are in my hand. Like I walk to the post office to get the mail. I take that off and to get the natural light, right? And then as soon as I walk back in the building, they go back on. So I'm even walking around with these in my hand wherever I need them. Non-negotiable. Do you do anything well, you have a harder time because of what you do, Sly. You probably wouldn't be a good idea to.
No, that could really be a damper in my thing. I have to see the real color and the things that are going on.
Right.
That was actually, so I didn't even think about those things. I used to have yellow lights in my bathroom for even during the daytime. And I walked in one day and I was like, when did my bathing suit turn this color? But it was the light reflecting off of it, changing the color of it. So that's really not something that I can do. I do, however, I do have like blue blockers, right, that are clear. And so I can use those. I've been thinking about getting a screen. I have a, well, it's also a screen, like privacy screen, but I have like a green screen over my phone. So it helps with that stuff. So I don't have to really worry about wearing them if I'm looking at my phone and stuff. I'm actually just revamping I'm calling it a mental health 75 hard. Because I really need to focus in on like what I'm doing. I feel like I here recently have became the person, one of those people that were taking their medicine for so long and felt so good, and they didn't think they needed their medicine anymore. And that's very rampant. It's very plentiful in the mental health field. And I think I felt some type of way about it, but I did see some videos from Metabolic Mind today where I'm not the only one. And so it's just like refocusing that. And I'm actually working on my non-negotiables over, you have the non-negotiables, you have your always, you have your unrestricted, and you have your conditionals. And I'm looking at it in that aspect for this one. So, one of them would be my bedtime. That's a big one. But I do feel like, I do go to bed a little bit earlier because like right now I feel like I should be in bed, right? We also had the time change. Why do we keep having to do this? Right? I get good in there, and then we're going to change the time on top of changing the daylight and everything else in there. I don't know who it's saving, but it didn't save anybody that I know. It ends up affecting like when I want to wake up in the morning more than it does when I go to sleep at night. But I guess my bedtime routine, those are kind of non-negotiables. The conditions would have to be like a special occasion or an event. Other than that, I'm not making plans to be going to 10 o'clock meetings anymore. And, you know, getting back to the basics with my food. I feel like I can get, like anybody else, we can go down rabbit holes, right? And this person's right, and this person right, and nobody's wrong, right? Nobody's really wrong. If it's working for them and it brings them peace, they're not wrong. But you got to keep your eye on the ball on what you're trying to do for what your goals are. And I have also learned that I still have issues with control. Go figure. Um, and so I'm working steps on that. So I guess step work is non-negotiable for me, for my mental health. And then like getting back to the basics with the nutrition and making sure that those routines are in there. Rigid, no, I think we definitely need to have flexibility, and that's why I'm working on the nevers, the non-negotiables, the always, the unrestricted, which I don't think there's really hardly anything unrestricted, maybe water. I think, you know, but I can't really find it. And even that's doesn't seem realistic for in there. And then the conditionals of like, you know, like we just had holidays, right? You know, what are my conditionals? Or maybe we have a date night, but he's pretty good at that. He knows when my bedtime is. Um, or something like that, what those conditionals will be without breaking what I need to be doing. I did get that little uh, cheat sheet thing from Coach Natalie, and then she got it from Never Binge Again, from the guy that wrote that book. So it's been kind of handed down and just kind of making your own. And I like that thing because it's like, it's not so rigid, right? It's not like, oh, I did this, so I'm wrong. And you can make it, you look at it and you put it in there and you're like, can I be 100% compliant about that? And if I can't, if I look at it and I can't, I can adjust it until I know that I can be. And that would be my plan. That would be Sly's plan. But, you know, Becky's plan's going to look different. Coach Sherri's plan's going to look different because their goals aren't the same as mine.
Well, and I think that's where you have to take it individual, right? You
Yeah.
have to end up and make it your plan. And that's what I was telling someone in a client call today was she asked certain questions, right? And speaking of that, if anyone that is listening, whether you're over here on YouTube or whether you're on Twitch, I know we have several people that are listening on the various platforms. So whether you're, you know, X, YouTube, Facebook, Twitch, or Instagram, if you have questions, definitely drop those because you'll get all of the coaches' feedback to your question. But it was in regards of, can you just give me a checklist to, you know, get back on track? Well, what I use as a checklist, right? Or what my goals are, because obviously it's the first of the month. And I have put a post out, right, in regards of my goals this month. But that doesn't mean it's going to work for her. And I said, what you need to do to create your plan, right, is what can you do on your worst day? And then we'll stack it from there, right? Because if you try to, you know, say, oh, I'm going to end up and create, you know, 10 different goals or 10 different non-negotiables, but those steps aren't going to work into your lifestyle, right? You don't have the time to, you know, we're just going to throw, say, a workout in there, right? I work out 3 days a week because that's what I can end up, you know, being consistent with. My vibration plate, right? Or my red light or any other parasympathetic work I do. That doesn't mean that it's going to work into your schedule. If I told you to do it at, you know, we'll just say 2:00 in the afternoon, you're at work. So, you know, you're not going to be able to stick with that. And so that's where figuring out, okay, this is my base foundation, right? This is my, maybe that's just getting up and eating breakfast, you know, or whatever that ends up and looks like for you, and build from there. You are creating a lifestyle. This isn't what we can do for the next 30, 60, 90 days. We're looking at what can we do to create this. Yes, it's going to end up in change from winter to when we end up when we get in spring. I agree. I wish that they would pass that Sunshine Protection Act and we could quit with this changing of time. It's just so frustrating to end up and be changing the time back and forth, and people having to adjust, and health issues and everything else around time change. But it's just, whether you make your bedtime a routine or a non-negotiable, right? Or maybe that's getting 7 hours of sleep, right? I strive for 7+ hours of sleep. Doesn't mean that ideally, yes, I would end up and have the same bedtime, every day. But for instance, my daughter's home tonight, right? There's nights that she works. I stay up till she gets home. So it's not realistic for me to say I'm going to be in bed at, 9:30 every night. She don't get off work. So, things like that, where making it your own.
So I'm going to ask each one of you guys a question. When did you realize that this was kind of a non-negotiable for you? When was that realization? What took you down that path that you went, oh my goodness, there's more to all of this? What woke you up? What kind of got you where you're at today?
When I was standing in front of a restaurant menu and I was looking at that menu and I wasn't thinking, what am I going to get to eat? I wanted to see what was going to get myself to feel better. And if that didn't work, was I going to go use? Like that moment, I mean, became like a where I come to non-negotiables because I don't want to be back there. And the realization is like this was a pretty hard few months for me. I mean, I joke say I have control. I still have issues with control and kind of laugh about it because it can be funny, right? But it's real. It doesn't make it less real. And you find out how human you are, and you do stick your hands in the candy dishes, and the intrusive thoughts start coming back. Now, granted, I have tools and I had things and I was able to keep my head above water. But if I didn't have the base that I had today, I could have ended up way worse than I am right now. And those non-negotiables and those things are routines, and those things that we put in place and practice is what got me here. So that would have been the turning moment that got me to where I got to my non-negotiables.
So for me, what got me to this point was continuing to seek a natural way of finding health. Right? I was dealing with several health issues, not just weight gain, right? But I was dealing with Hashimoto's. I was dealing with asthma. My A1C was 6.0. My dad was a very brittle diabetic. And I knew that wasn't the path that I wanted, but I also knew that pharmaceutical wasn't the path I wanted. And that's where enough was enough, right? And did I do everything right? Absolutely not. I quit a lot of the pharmaceuticals cold turkey. I wasn't a very good coach at that point, right?
What?
Right? Because I was like, I'm done, right? I'm eliminating this. I'm not refilling, and actually the scripts weren't even up. I didn't even finish the scripts. I actually threw the scripts out. But I started to just look at one piece, right? I looked at the nutrition piece. which there was a factor in there that it worked to a point until it didn't. Right. Because, and that's where I continue to seek, I continue to learn, I continue to research. I can't tell you how many research studies I have read or information I have read, right, in regards of various topics, and continue to adjust, right? It wasn't working for me. And not that it didn't work, it worked on certain points, right? But I've also learned to evolve beyond just that. And I'm still not where I'm going, right? Again, it's a lifestyle, it's a long term. It's not this is what I'm doing and this is, what got me better. This is what's working for now. So, continuing to practice that. But I also knew that nutrition wasn't the only piece. And that's when I started to incorporate the light and the lifestyle practices and maintaining that full wellness, instead of just what new diet can I go on.
Your
How
turn.
about yourself?
My turn. So I had a health scare, and my diabetes, type 2 diabetes, was not good. And I was on medication, and I decided that summer to follow the recommendations from the, American Diabetes Association. And in 3 months' time, my A1C got worse. So yeah. I had heard the word keto before, and I had never done it. I've done everything else, I think. Even went through all of the rigmarole that you go through for gastric bypass surgery, except for the actual surgery. So I literally just started walking. I started Googling what keto is, and it was dirty keto. And as I was just getting started, my best friend of 30 years died of she died of coronary. She was very large. She was about 450 pounds, and it scared me to death. And I knew that this had to be a lifestyle change, not a quick fix diet. And that started me down the path. And I've talked about this before, and it's kind of funny, but Becky will remember this. This is probably, I don't know, what do you think, Becky, 6 months into my journey. And I meet Becky, and Becky's talking about blue blockers and seeing the sunrise and getting sleep. And I had heard that buzzword going on with, you got to get sleep, right? And I'm like, that's nice.
It's a buzzword.
It was a buzzword because it meant nothing. Like everybody, oh, you got to get sleep. You got to get sleep. And I'm like, how do you get flipping sleep when I can't shut down? It's 1 o'clock in the morning every night. Like, I don't understand you people. And it would but nobody was saying how. Nobody was giving that information. And it was like, well, it's 1:30. I'm still awake. I don't understand. There's that buzzword, got to get sleep, And I meet Becky, and Becky's like, blue blockers and blah, blah, blah. And I don't know. I had heard her several times, right? And I was like, and then I would go, okay, tell me that again. I don't know how many times she repeated herself to me. I was like, okay, one more time. What was this about blue blockers? Like, okay. Finally, I broke down. Well, you can buy some blue blockers that are like, couple $100 or more. And I was like, yeah, no, that's not in my budget. She had a company that she went through, and I think at the time they were like $35, weren't they?
Yeah. Which is one of the questions, not to interrupt your story here, but that is one of the questions. So I'm going to pause you real quick to address please. That is what brand of glasses. And so a reputable company, right? Making sure that it's like Midwest Red Light Therapy. There's a link, since you're the question comes from over on Instagram. There is a link in my bio for their blue blockers, and they may even actually be on sale right now. I need to check and see if Kyle is running a sale right now, and I think maybe they're like $5 off. But if you put in the code Niles10, it'll end up and it'll save you too. So they have the orange, they have the red, and the yellow. But anyway, go ahead.
Right. So I finally, ordered them. I used that code. And I got them. And I mean, I put them on one night. And I think it was the red that I had put on.
It was.
Yeah, it was the red. Like I just went full on, like let's go for the red. And there's the lenses all do kind of different things. But I went for red. Red, just so everyone knows, you should probably put them on about 30 minutes to an hour before you go to bed. That'll really kick in the melatonin. Well, it did. And I'm literally sitting there, and I remember I got these red lenses on, the lights are on in the house, the TV's going, I'm playing on my phone, do. And all of a sudden I felt my whole body just go, and it was like, oh my goodness. I think somebody could push me over right now. I'm tired. Like, this is weird. Like, I don't know what this sensation is. And it was like, but I'm going to run with it. And I did. I mean, it was like, boom, 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 bed, now, sleep. And that's when the light bulb went off on the Beyond, right? That was the light bulb. That was the moment that I went, okay, Becky, let's go back to the basics now and educate Sherri again for the 100th time. This time I'm listening, right? And you had my attention. And then here I am, how many years later, with the non-negotiables and things like that. So that's kind of what got me down this path and everything. And the same as Coach Sly and Coach Becky, nutrition does it to a point, and then it worked until it didn't. And I've done militant carnivore, militant keto, ketovore. I've done whole food. I've done everything in between in the sun, and everything works until it doesn't. The Beyonds are the key that I found that helps my body heal.
I'm not laughing at you, Sherri. I'm over here battling cats right now. One cat keeps pushing this over this way, and the other one's jumping up between my legs and trying to attack me.
That's funny.
Oh, never a dull moment in our lives, let me tell you.
Just like 3 times you're just over here pouring your heart out, and I'm like,
I think what's nice is we've explored some personal experiences, right? Kind of some root causes of what has gotten us to this point, and the strategies. We do have the community. Don't forget the BNC community, where you can come on in and you can find out a whole lot more. Becky has this huge masterclass that I have heard it. I don't know how many times, that every single time I hear it, I take away with another piece that I went, what? Wait a minute. How come I hadn't heard that before? And it's like, oh, because I have. It just didn't connect in the old brainola. But winter, right? It dims the light outside, and we can actually learn to kind of rekindle that and not go down that seasonal, the SAD, right? The seasonal depression, affective disorder, right? And one thing you can do to kind of turn that around too is gratitude. And that's a whole nother, hey, next week, let's talk about gratitude, Becky. Anyway, so, but there's right, Sly. I mean, you can talk more about what that does to the mind, right? The positive affirmations and the gratitude and things like that, and what that's actually doing to the brain.
It's your neuroplasticity. It's my favorite word. It rewires. It really, I mean, that's what it does. It rewires the brain. There's even a comedian that talks about it. He's like, his therapist um, gave him homework to do gratitude. And he's like, he was fucking pissed because it worked, you know? Um, like it rewires the brain of like, instead of always looking at the negative, like let's look at the positive and let's look at it that in that way. So we're not, got Eeyore syndrome, right? That does help a lot. I went to a public seminar for women about a month ago, and it cost money to go there, right? It's like $50 a ticket or whatever it was. And I'm like sitting there and I'm like, they talk about giving your rocks away and looking at the glass this way. And I'm like, oh, this is what they teach me in my 12-step program for free. And neuroplasticity and stuff like that. We don't use the word neuroplasticity, but it does. It just rewires the brain with the positive affirmations with it. They're like, they always go, let other people love you till you can love yourself, right? Or I don't like the fake it till you make it scenario, but I do like keep saying it till you believe it. Keep looking in the mirror, keep telling the positive affirmations, keep finding the good things. Because if you're looking for the good things, then you won't, keep identifying with the bad things. Even as something as serious as, like, I have been working in a DV class, which is a domestic violence class, right? And some of the material that we have to use is very degrading. I mean, it's degrading. I'm not saying that what they did, verifying what they did or justifying anything like that, but they're there to get better, right? They're there to get better. And if you're always demonizing yourself or somebody else, how are you going to get better? So when you bring that positive outlook on it, even if it's just in small amounts, even if it's just like writing 3 things down a day that you're grateful for, or looking in the mirror and saying 3 positive things about yourself daily, it changed the whole mindset. Always.
Absolutely.
And it's proven science.
It is. It truly is. But your body also ends up and holds the score, right? It ends up and it holds that memory. So, whether it's that exclusion zone water that, that metabolic water that I talk about building up also in this time of year, right? With the infrared light and all of that. But it also, we created, the affirmations journal because a lot of people don't know how to end up and go about it. And so, we give you the prompts in that, but seasonal depression, it isn't a character flaw. It's not, you're not broken, right? There's your biology, right? Your individual biology is responding to the environment. So when the light changes, when your hormones, neurotransmitters, metabolism, all of that is changing too. Yes, the good news is that you can do things, whether it is the gratitude, whether it's the affirmations, whether it's, changing your routine, getting sleep, all of that is going to end up and make a difference. So again, you're not broken, you're not failing, you're not doing it wrong. Your body is just simply telling you, it's giving you that feedback that it is being overstimulated, it is being, stressed out, and it's out of rhythm. So, as long as we are able to restore that signal, we restore, those balancing techniques that we talk about, the body is very smart. It has intelligence, right? It will end up and recalibrate. We just have to end up and give it what it needs. And sometimes that's also eating, right? Not under eating, not fasting, but becoming, more of you, right? Becoming you again, being that happy version of yourself. And just providing it with the signal. So it is doable.
If
And
you have problems with finding affirmation or saying things. They do make an array. You have the journal, right? They also make an array of affirmation cards, coins, decks, from anywhere to spiritually affirmations you can read daily to self magic ones. They even have sweary affirmations. Um, if you have that trouble, if you have a trouble trying to figure out, things, I've had people where I tell them, I want you to tell me 3 positive things about yourself, and they never talk, and they're telling me everything about around them but themselves. That I was like, that has nothing to do with you.
Mm-hmm.
I need 3 positive things about you. So if you do have a hard time using tools and getting things, and I think there's all kinds of them on Amazon that you can find and pull them out. There's even affirmation pickles, by the way. They got little pickle things on them. They'll tell you little pickle affirmations. So
as we wrap up, before we close out, let's all go around. Let's give our audience one tip to get started, that they could try this week. What do you suggest? So I don't know who wants to go first.
I'm gonna steal Becky's sleep. I'm gonna steal that one because that's the one, right? That's the basis. That's what sleep is important. Actually, and a lot of people have this negative thing around sleep sometimes, especially when they're new into something or they're detoxing and stuff. And so I just quit calling it sleep. Really, I call it their rest and repair time. So it doesn't have that negative backlash of like, oh, I slept too long, or maybe I'm doing this, or whatever. It's rest and repair time. Start with that.
Yep. So one of the things, I guess my tip this week is going to end up and be, so we have sleep. I would say hydration, right? Making sure that you are staying hydrated. A lot of people think in wintertime they still don't need to drink as much. Hydration is very important, especially with adding the minerals in there. We notice that, can also end up and lead to depression type symptoms. It can lead to a whole slew of other symptoms from being dehydrated. So make sure you get, just some basic minerals, whether it be shilajit or like Mother Earth elements, those type of minerals added into your water.
Absolutely. I think mine.
Hydrogen.
Oh yeah, my tip would be, if you, and I use this tip to begin my seeing the sunrise, because when I was told that, I'm like, yeah, right, because I'm not going to sleep till 1:30, and then you want me to get up and see the sunrise. That's not going to happen. But as I started down the whole beyonds, right, and figuring things out, I still wasn't waking up to see the sunrise. So I had to start setting my alarm. And the alarm trick for me that worked was, for a week, I would set it for a certain time. And the next week, I would set it for 5 minutes earlier. And I slowly worked my to the point, to this day, I can wake up and before the sunrise. My body knows now. But this has been years in the making, right? I think, Becky, you're the same way, aren't you?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So typically I'm awake before my alarm, and now even I'm awake before daylight because my body is just used to being up. But I also, don't blast it by, laying in bed, scrolling my phone, or laying in bed, right? I end up and I get up. Whether it's, 6 or whether it's 6:30 or maybe it's 6:15, whatever the case is, I end up and I get up, and, we were referencing the red light. And so I start my day out slow. I start, and I anchor that though I anchor the cortisol curve, right, with daytime light. And that's why I said I end up and I go outside. I do my grounding, I do, all of that, and it may not end up and be sunrise yet, but I'm up, and that truly does end up and set the routine for the day.
Absolutely. Well, hopefully there's some good takeaways for our audience that you've learned tonight. As always, Coach Sly, we love having you on with a different perspective that comes with the whole mental health side of things that I always learn from you. I don't know about anybody else, but I've learned tons from you. So the audience knows Coach Sly joins us the first Monday of every month. So we prodded her, and we pay her money, not really, to show up. No, we don't.
You just offer me laughs.
Yeah, but you can count on the first Monday of every month. Coach Sly is going to join us for the Coaches Roundtable. We think it's important to get another perspective beyond Becky and I. So, any final words?
Yes, we didn't talk about the biggest thing.
Oh,
Oxytocin. We didn't talk about it. Go Google oxytocin. We don't need to tell them all about it. It's pretty simple. Go Google oxytocin and get your oxytocin up.
Absolutely. Alrighty. Well, as always, it's fun. Even if we end up when we have technical difficulties, we still manage to end up and go over an hour. We're also late for the BNC meeting, but that's all right. I think our community here appreciates and love us. Let us know by liking, subscribing, and make sure you also follow us. So have a wonderful evening, and we will see you, Sherri and I will see you next week. Sly, we will end up and see you as well next month.
Yes.
Have a wonderful evening.